Strong character and refined will shall build this pillar sound. With this stone true the tower did hope, for the grace his basis found. This willful lens, this reflection, a deceitful claim to see, no longer square nor level to the line plumb to the sea.
Do you just want to quickly run through 4 and 5?
Yeah.
These are the last 2 films in the
Cremaster
cycle.
4 was set on the Isle of Man, and in some ways the structure of that piece was a deconstruction of the flag, the 3 legs of man, and that I was interested in taking the island and dividing it into 3 character factions. That there would be an ascending team, a descending team, and a Lockton team. And Lockton is the breed of sheep that's indigenous to the island that has 4 horns, 1 ascending and 1 pair descending. So it sort of could occupy both spaces simultaneously. And I suppose finally that the TT race, which is a sort of mountain course, once a Grand Prix course, it's no longer a Grand Prix, which occurs every year, goes around the island. That course was followed by the story of Cremaster 4.
By these teams of
by these teams.
Motorcycles.
Sidecar teams.
Sidecar teams, right?
Yeah.
This was the last.
Yeah, Cremaster 5 set in Budapest. I guess with this piece, once I decided on Budapest as the location and spent quite a bit of time over there, I got more and more interested in how the city felt somewhat like a set, and that it was, I think it was, a lot of it was built in the late 1800s, and that although I probably started by looking at the baths that were left over from the Ottoman Empire, I got more interested in these sort of later period baths, and that led me to the Opera House, and that how the story of Cremaster 5 could have a kind of an artificiality that I think I didn't set out for it to have, that Budapest as a place has in a certain way.
You've had in several of the films characters. Here's Ursula Andress and Sarah and Norman Mailer. You've had characters who are well known, more or less, and sort of outside the films. What is the meaning of that? Why have you chosen them?
Well, I think that they all have. I think what they probably all have in common is a kind of an extreme sort of physical essence about them, and that they're, I think that their presence in the piece, has the same purity as a raw material would have, because of the sort of extreme physical purity of their characters, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you once said that you've described the image of Ursula Andress coming out of the water in Dr. No, and the way the shoulder blades sort of cut. I mean, the shoulders sort of cut out of the water.
Right,
But,
and that in fact she was perhaps the first sort of athletic sex symbol on screen, and that so her physicality is maybe literal that way, and Mailer's might be more sort of in his, in his voice, in his writing. The saddle was one of the forms that I first started thinking about with Cremaster 2, that wanting the piece to be somewhat of a Western, that I started going to this club in Midtown Manhattan called Denim and Diamonds, where two-step dancing would take place and line dancing would take place. And over the top of the bar was a mirrored saddle that would rotate over the top of the, actually not over the bar, but over the dance floor. And it would rotate in a counterclockwise direction, and so too would all the dancers. And I became interested in how the saddle, as an object, it could speak to several of the themes that I wanted to build the piece around. Those being the movement of this, this glacier through the landscape that has left behind the salt desert, the salt flats in Utah, and has carved the Rocky Mountains and has ended up in the Rocky Mountains in Canada in the form of a valley glacier. So it's literally carved a sort of channel. And that the way that the saddle sits over the backbone of the horse, and that the backbone being one of those lines that bisects the body, and that in some ways there's a sort of residual line from primary cell division.
Also the spine.
Yeah, like the spine, or like the cleft under your nose, which is called the natal cleft. That line could speak somehow to that genealogical movement that I wanted the piece to have as well. That it would move backward in time like the landscape story. And it would follow Gilmore's story from 1977 in Utah, the moment of his execution, backward in time. The Cremaster 2 takes place within the Mormon Basin, and the Mormons use the beehive as a way to sort of symbolize their belief in the union of the family, or the union of the church, that there are no individuals, there are only relationships between individuals, and that's the strength of the group. I mean, this is an interesting idea in terms of the way the Cremaster Cycle in general sort of treats characters, or treats objects for that matter, that there's probably more emphasis put on the space between things, or the connections made between characters, than there are on individuals, or individual characters or objects.
I mean, maybe you could just talk just a little bit about what comes first, whether there's a plot you work out, or whether the plot almost evolves out of other issues, if you can call it a plot.
Well, I think that the place comes first, and that out of the place, with number 3, actually with this bar.